I just watched Top Gun, and it was 80s-tastic. Man, I just... They're just a joy all around. So how long ago did you watch
Top Gun?
Was that like a childhood thing for you? Or?
It was a childhood thing. It was like one of my parents' favorite movies. My dad actually had a model of the Tomcat that they flew. And I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. And Dad's like, we have a movie where this happens. I'm like, really? And then there's like 3 scenes of them flying. I'm like, and there's like only one of them in combat, and I'm pretty sure nobody actually gets shot down. I remember.
Oh, it's all the computer simulation. It's the practice for the
But I didn't know that as like a 6-year-old kid. I'm like, yeah, plane! You know, I just watched Star Wars. The X-Wing fights were like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. Watched episode 5, Battle of Hoth, you know, those guys flying in their speeders. This is the coolest thing ever. People are shooting people down, people are dying, this is awesome. Dad's like, hey, you want to see one about fighter jets? I'm like, yeah! And
no, Meg Ryan.
No, Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan!
And then I watched it recently because I actually watched the Charlie Sheen parody Hot Shots. And I wanted to introduce my wife, and she'd never seen Top Gun. And so I wanted to introduce her, and that's like our favorite movie. And she wanted to know the source material. So we started with that, watched that with her family, and she's like, this is really dumb and kind of homoerotic. I'm like, I know, right?
Wait, Hot Shots is supposed to be a parody of Top Gun?
Yeah. Wesley from Princess Bride, he's the Iceman equivalent.
Except he's an actual bad guy there. Is he an actual bad guy? How far does it patter?
No, it's...
How far should they parody this?
The main character's girlfriend used to be a girlfriend of Iceman's character, of Wesley from Princess Bride, and they have this rivalry going on throughout the whole thing. It's ridiculous. It's fantastic. But yeah, so I mean,
but it's not Batman.
It's not Batman.
Batman being the rival. Is he a giant nerd in that?
Yes.
Man, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. The nerd being the antagonist. Yeah, so the movie started for me, and it starts in with Danger Zone, which...
Yeah!
I'm like, who does this song? No, stop it, that's... Danger Zone! I'm like, this is going to be stuck in my head all movie unless they have something catchier, and they did. But no, it starts, and... First thing I do is I start singing Danger Zone like Archer, like, Danger Zone!
Oh, yeah.
And I knock over my mimosa. And I'm only singing and stuff because I've had a mimosa.
Man, forget that. I will sing sober, bro.
Nope. I drank for this video.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. But then I looked up, it's Kenny Loggins. Has Kenny Loggins ever made a song that didn't get stuck in your head forever?
No.
He just makes songs that get stuck in your head.
I honestly know the name Kenny Loggins better than I know the material Kenny Loggins has made. Like, I know
Caddyshack, and then Caddyshack 2. He does both of them.
The Gopher song?
Yep, well, the Gopher song, it's
I'm
Alright. And then he does Nobody's Fool for the second one.
I do know those songs, just didn't know it was Kenny Loggins.
It's Kenny Loggins.
I know the name better than I know the source
material.
Kenny
Loggins.
yeah, he
intends to get... golden mullet. There was a lot of blondes in this movie, too.
Yes, I believe...
All the love interests are blondes. Like Carol, who's Meg Ryan, but she's Meg Ryan.
She's Meg Ryan.
She's Meg Ryan. Charlie, who's blonde, and Iceman.
Iceman.
All blonde. Yes. Trying to stare off at the distance and think about Iceman.
Meg Ryan. Well, one thing I want to talk about Meg Ryan, it was like when she was actually cute before she did all that work to her nose and looked less like 80s Meg Ryan.
She's still cute. I don't know.
Not as cute, though. Seen, like, with that hair when she's at the piano.
I don't know. Seriously, I don't understand, like... Meg Ryan. How have I not seen more Meg Ryan movies?
I don't know. She hasn't been on the scene for a while.
When I watch it, I got the hardcore, like, second couple feeling. Like, oh, they're really trying to, like, steal the thunder of the old couple. Like, I'm gonna repeat everything she said. Meg Ryan said. Take me to bed or lose me forever.
Yeah.
Never gonna make out on a motorcycle.
We'll never be as cool as Meg Ryan and whoever she's dating. I know, babe.
Time to get ready for like 4 posters.
was like the tagline at Walmart? Take this home or lose it forever.
No, it'll still be on Netflix later. No, it's a very visceral movie though. It's all music videos and like
it is
shots.
Like I mean, you said that before we started this video, and now as we go through it, I'm remembering all these songs. That, like Great Balls of Fire, Danger Zone.
They just performed that.
Take My Breath Away.
I saw Frasier do Great Balls of Fire.
You know
right
what? It counts because it gets in my head, and they played it in the movie.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way audiences our age in the 80s could pay attention to movies for more than 5 minutes. Like nowadays, you have to have CGI effects and drama, like what they did to the Star Trek movies, in order to get us to pay attention.
I don't know. I still pay attention to all this stuff.
Yeah, we do because we're nerds.
Yeah. So.
I'm just saying, in general, like audiences today need drama and CGI to pay attention.
I don't think that's true because there's lots of hobbies that are just nothing but sitting down. Like RPG players have a very high tolerance for boredom.
Again, nerds.
So?
Nerds have a higher tolerance for boredom.
It's us and Iceman. We're okay with being bored.
That's
not
fair.
Tom Cruise. You're saying movies are made for Tom Cruise. See, this contrast existed then in the movie. There's both. There's room for both.
I'm just saying, like, back then, our CGI effects are their music video.
Music videos.
Yeah. I mean, even if you think of Back to the Future, there's like 3 Huey Lewis songs in there.
Oh god, but I love those.
Oh, no, fantastic movies. But even there,
but they don't.
Music videos.
When I see it on there, it feels like a soundtrack. It doesn't really feel like a music video.
Right, because it actually fits.
Where this
Huey
one's all like
Lewis.
planes.
Well,
and beaches.
The difference is Huey Lewis is a musical genius, and that movie is a classic.
You don't think Kenny Loggins is a musical genius?
I think Kenny Loggins is gifted music.
I think he's a demon from hell.
That's fair. So that's the entire reason we made this video, is to tell the internet that Kenny Loggins is a demon from hell.
He's evil.
Let's sandwich it with more video about Top Gun, just to blend it in more.
No, but even though it's a highly visceral movie, there's still a story there.
There is still a story. It's kind of a weak story, though.
Yeah, there's potholes at the end.
Oh, totally.
I don't understand.
But I mean, like the whole story is this guy doesn't obey the rules, and yet somehow he's still in the Navy. That's the giant plot hole for me. Air Force. No, it's the Navy. Okay, Air Force. But he's still a military officer, blatantly going against the rules, and not getting canned for it.
It's also a role that makes sense that Tom Cruise is short. Like, I was watching, like, Goose is way too tall to be in a jet plane.
That dude's gonna get his neck broken next time he tries to eject.
Oh, damn you! Too soon!
Too soon, it's been like 30 years.
Too soon! Oh, man. But even speaking to how it's not, like, a shallow movie, like... You really feel his death when he goes.
You really do.
God.
I mean, honestly, he was the only character I ever remotely cared about in that movie. Except for Meg Ryan.
And Meg Ryan. They're so great.
But because they're the couple. They're together, you know?
No.
And even though Meg Ryan has, like, no more than 5 minutes of screen time.
She's so good at it. No. I'm like, why isn't Meg Ryan the lead? Because this character is better. Man.
Meg Ryan needs to be the lead. Kenny Loggins is Demon from Hell. Anything else we need to cover?
Well, no, I don't think Meg Ryan needs to be. I think Goose and Meg Ryan need to be the stars of the movie. Tom Cruise can be a side plot.
See, the problem there, though, is Tom Cruise dies, we're like, eh.
Yeah.
See, the difference is, with Goose and Meg Ryan, you know, we're watching halfway through the movie, then Goose dies, and I turn it off.
No. That was good. Oh yeah, speaking of... I think I set this up better in my solo video, but...
Do you wanna...
No, it's okay, like, the song for Take My Breath Away, like, they played it at first, I'm like, okay, this is an understandable part. I don't think they're that in love, though. This doesn't seem like a movie memory. And then they just brought it back, and they played it again. And then, like, Tom Cruise is in the street, and then it starts playing!
Yeah.
And eventually it's just stalking Tom Cruise. said everything but in the wrong order. Now let's talk about how Meg Ryan took the death.
Okay.
Okay. I took... Cause the death almost brought tears, which...
I mean, well, to be fair, you were on Mimosa.
I was on Mimosa, but I cry during movies a lot. Like... I'm a crier.
See, I liked it because, I mean, obviously they set him up as the comic relief and you know, Tom Cruise is almost the straight man compared to him. You know, his buddy. Not really. He's not the straight man because he's a maverick. But, like, you know, they're buddies. They're together. They're always joking. Need for Speed. Oh, we're going to sing for this random chick in a bar as music follows us around.
You get to see them be friends.
Yeah.
It's not just they tell you they're friends.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, man, Tom Cruise is stupid. Movie should be about Goose. But then, you know, Goose is too tall, and then... You know,
Goose is so tall.
I mean, like, yeah, it's... See, that's the thing. Tom Cruise had to be the main character because he was short, you know. He hits the cockpit, nobody's going to believe that. But Goose, he's already halfway through the cockpit when he pulls that eject lever.
Oh, so sad.
And then he's, like, in the ocean, and he's all bloody, and Tom Cruise is like, no! And we're all like, no! And then Meg Ryan's comes. And we're like, no!
Yeah, but... Yeah, like, and everyone expects him to get over it super fast.
Yeah, everybody's like, snap out of it, you're an Air Force officer.
Well, they're not like, there wasn't that strong of a scene. Like, they're all understanding with him, and they all kind of handle him with kid gloves, but they still expect him to do things. So it's all like talking behind his back, like, he should be doing blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah,
It's more, they do it more in expectations and telling the main character what they think.
To be fair, it's been a year since I've seen this, so I don't remember it scene for scene.
Well, you are very prepared. I'm glad how much you prepared for this video.
Well,
I'm kidding.
You mean I walked in and you're like, hey, I want to make a video? Or rather, you're like, I made a video, and I'm like,
I want to make a video.
And you're like, yay! Pandering to Trey's childish needs.
I'm cutting all of this.
I know.
Let's see. No.
Meaning I can do anything.
I had thought. Gross.
It's hot, don't mind me.
Oh, it reminded me that, like, but there is a lot of people that die in training every year with the Army. It's not just once you go out. Like, we still had a death toll to our military forces, even just because they're doing these dangerous things. And they always need to be at war, otherwise, like, you don't have the skills. You don't want to go in not fresh. Like World War II, there was, like, no one with good experience.
Right, because all the World War I guys were all mustard gassed and retired.
Yeah, which was like a subplot to Pearl Harbor. But now we have these technologies where they can actually practice, like, this is when the missile would go, and this is how much damage you could take from a gun.
Yeah.
And then they actually fight at the end, does it say a lot about who they're fighting? I don't think it does.
I think they needed to keep it ambiguous, because at the time, you know, the Cold War was going on. At that time, they could have been a three-way war between Russia, China, Cuba,
but at
North
the same
Korea.
time, I think soldiers don't really need to know where they're going.
Right.
Especially if it's more of a hush-hush op where they're trying to test our defenses. Then
sure.
Every once in a while, you hear about, like, a plane being shot down,
right,
which was from one of these guys when they get sent up in their jets.
Sure. And then, yeah, there's that little bit of fighting, and it was mostly just gunfire, wasn't it? Nobody actually fires off any missiles.
Oh, no, it was a big deal.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, like, a missile, like, finished off, like, all the kills.
Oh,
and then there's one point where there's still, like, 3, and they only have 1 missile left.
Right.
So he had to pull off his little S-tail where he stops.
Yeah. Hits the brakes and lets them fly right by.
Which also, this movie also made me think a lot about how they construct jets. Because they're pretty much rocks with an engine behind them, and if that engine goes out, there's nothing to fall back on.
Yeah.
You're just a rock.
Well, I mean, and that's one thing about this movie is, I mean, I'm not a physicist, but from what I understand, it portrayed jets, like war jets especially, pretty adequately.
Mm-hmm.
And portrayed training of the day pretty adequately in that right. And I think that's something to be said, you know, for a movie that was just supposed to be an 80s love movie like Gentleman and an Officer, which I hated that movie.
Well, that's another movie that I really like. Well, another point of the movie that I really liked is even though it's like all visceral and all music video, it's not all, Army! It's not all, look at this hardware. It's not.
That is nice.
It's not hardware porn. It's not Army porn, it's not hardware porn, it's just a straight story.
What would be an example of hardware porn for you?
Anything by Michael Bay.
Fair. Maybe the more I watch it, the more, like, I'll remember the jet scenes and stuff like that. And, again, it's not bad.
I was like, jet scene. It wasn't quite as bad as, like, the jet scenes were cool, but it wasn't quite as bad as like the 80s. Like I shoot a gun and then a random person in the room dies. I got a little bit of that, but the targeting computer kind of helped out.
Sure.
So I could actually keep track, and they were scripted to make sense.
Right.
During that final one, I kind of lost track of the planes.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many planes going on in this actual combat. I think that's kind of the point, is it's kind of fuzzy, it's kind of foggy, it's not the training simulations where, okay, these two planes are up in the air, who's going to get the drop on who? And then once they get a lock on, oh, I locked on, the music changes, and the other pilot's like, oh, dang it, obscenities!
Yeah, if I would have been paying closer attention, like, to Merlin and Maverick's interaction, because Merlin's still doing his job and telling him where stuff is, but he's like, whoa, what are we doing?
Yeah, Merlin's kind of just a insert NPC
well,
here.
he's supposed to be, but like he does have like solid like character reactions to all the stuff that
he has character reactions. He just doesn't have a whole lot of character.
Well, he's supposed to be, and then he's still kind of like the antithesis of the old one, because he's like, we should go after this guy, and we can catch up to him. He's like, no, we're not leaving the Wingman, we're not leaving Iceman there.
Right.
And that's where they get to show character growth. He was the character growth example man.
Yes, character growth example man.
Which I thought was good. So it's a very well-rounded movie in that aspect.
It is. It's a very well-rounded movie, very well-constructed movie. People care about this movie, which makes you care about this movie.
The ending felt like a plot hole, though. Like,
which part specifically?
When the girl comes back.
Yeah, like she had no reason to come back for him.
Well, he takes the job back in nowhere. He should have just taken the job in like DC. Like, I'll be with the people in DC, and then I'll be able to see my girlfriend that does the doctor things.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that they'd be able to get together, though. I think it just like glosses over any logic they could do for it. Like, no, they're together.
Well, I mean, that's part of the 80s. At that point, you know, Goose is dead. They have to remind you, some good has to come in Tom Cruise's life. He's Tom Cruise, dang it. So the girl comes back and he gets the girl. I think if she didn't, then the movie would have made people feel very empty inside at the end, and it wouldn't be what it is today.
And that was the movie's job, just to make it feel good.
80s movies.
Not like, oh, and then you meet some nice girl that works at the store, and they live in a house. And so this is my first time watching it, and I really liked it. It's a really fun movie, and it's not like terribly. It doesn't need to be intellectual, but still, it gives you a story that's entertaining and good, and lots of funny, and then there's some sad, and then there's the uplifting part. It's a great movie, and I keep laughing and smiling while I talk about it, so it can't be terrible.
You laugh and smile about a lot of stuff you talk about.
Ah, dead babies.
I've probably seen the movie at least 3 times. Most recently, about a year ago. Honestly, the movie's kind of forgettable to me. I mean, it's not completely forgettable. I remember a few things. Like, I remember when he slams on the brakes on his jet. I remember Goose dying. I remember Meg Ryan, even though she only has 5 minutes of screen time. But you're right, it is fun. It's honestly not my cup of tea because it focuses, for me, a little too much on the romance, and I watched it when I was 3. That put me off of it. I didn't care. It's not a bad movie, though, in any respect of the word, in any respect of movies. Honestly, I more recently watched Officer and a Gentleman, and starring Richard Gere. I hated that movie. I could not get into it.
All romance and army?
Yeah, it's all about the romance and the depression. Like, if Goose died every hour the movie was going on. Or, like, even every half hour or something like that.
Like, oh, you're an entertaining character. 10 minutes. Was that it?
Just about. And, like, it was just, and I did not like it. Top Gun, I actually do remember with fondness, or at worst, apathy. Like, it's okay. You know, I don't hate on it.
It's not a big nostalgia thing for you.
No, it's really not. Part of that was just because my parents, it was a big nostalgia thing for them. So I'm like, oh, Mom and Dad, roll eyes every time it's mentioned.
Well, it was made in 87, 88?
Something around there. And
that's before you were born.
Exactly.
That's like when I was born.
Exactly. So, I mean, I wasn't alive for it. It wasn't a big deal when I was out in theaters because I wasn't, alive. But, I mean, one thing about it, it was a huge career maker. And that has to say something. People were remembered from this movie.
I thought Risky Business was his career maker.
Right, but it was still in that time period. Like, people were starting to know Tom Cruise, kind of like Jim Carrey around the time of Dumb and Dumber. Like, oh yeah, I remember him from this and this. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Meg Ryan wasn't huge back then, and Val Kilmer hadn't made it big. I mean, he'd made that Doors movie, but I've honestly never met him.
Was not yet Batman.
Yes, he was not yet Batman.
But he was Iceman.
He was Iceman.
I just started watching Top Gun, and I spill my mimosa on my desk! This must be the danger zone! Sorry, on one of my videos, someone called you my fat friend.
Yes! Boom, boom, boom.